Welcome everybody, and thank you guys for being the first session that we're doing with live Q&A. And no question is a bad question today. And we have Victoria here with us from Cvent. Again, she was the presenter last week on our Cvent, and it was a busy 90 minutes. We had a lot of content to cover, so we appreciate her time. We will try and do these things at least. Maybe we do it every like 6 to 8 weeks. And we're going to call them office hours with Cvent. And so she's going to make herself available to us to do that in the future as well. So just know, don't keep your questions. We have Erica and our team available too to answer questions. But Victoria really is the expert since she eats and breathes it every day, right, Victoria? So we had a little bit.
Every day for 4 years now.
We had a little bit of a panic moment last week. Nobody else would know this, but we'll share it with you. Victoria had a fire in her building and texted me 20 minutes before we were supposed to begin last Friday and said, "We have a fire in my building." And I'm like, oh dear goodness, what content were we covering? So it was kind of funny. So we'll go ahead and get started. And we do have a couple other people that have joined. So I'm going to allow you guys to talk. So you should have gotten a message, Michelle and Ryan, on your screens that you guys can just talk, and we will take the questions in the Q&A as well. So the first one that came in through the chat pod is, can we go back and send surveys? So I'm going to go ahead and turn my video camera off, Victoria, and let you share your screen so you can go into an event and show them. You can absolutely go in there after the fact and send surveys out. So I will see you guys in just a little bit. If anything comes up, I will turn my camera back on. Thanks, guys.
All right, awesome, you guys. So yeah, the first question we had was just about going to sending out surveys after your event. It looks like your event was held on June 9th. So the answer to that at a basic level is yes, absolutely. You can still go back after the event and send surveys. If anything, a lot of the time, that important information you want to gather is after the event, right? You want to ask them what they thought, maybe what could be improved. So the built-in surveys within the event are really intended for that. And so the only timeline you need to really consider with sending out that survey is going to be the archive date of the event. So if I just share my screen and we go into an event, I'll show you where you can find the archive date as well as how you can edit it if you need to send a survey after that archive date. So let me just share my screen here. All right, so hopefully everyone can see my screen here. This is the event that I created with you guys last week. I think it was last week. I have no sense of time these days, but in my event, if I go up to event details and then event information, there's a little field here that you'll see in the one area called the archive date. Now, this archive date does auto adjust to 90 days after the end date of your event. So in Cvent, automatically, that archive date will be just 90 days after this end date. Oops, didn't mean to look that up. But once that archive date passes, that's when you can no longer send out post-event surveys. So you do have 90 days after, but you don't have to worry because you can always come back in here. If we click on edit, we can manually adjust that archive date, as you can see here. You can manually adjust that if you need more time, but if you send it before those 90 days, don't worry about having to come back in to manually adjust that archive date. But you can totally send out those surveys at any point within that time frame. Hopefully that answers your question. But let me know if you need me to go a little bit further into the surveys within the event. Let's see here. I'm going to see if there are any other questions or any follow-up to that.
All right, we do have it's actually the same one. So Tammy, I'm just going to call on you. Do you have any specific questions for Victoria?
I don't have any specific questions, but this summer I am going to start embracing the certificates after our meetings. I have not done that yet where it's automatic. I'm still sending our certificates manually. And I did talk to Megan with Region 9, and she's gone over a little bit what she does, but I'm looking for more help and information about doing certificates. Well, and I do have wait, sorry. I do have one thing specific about the certificate. She was saying that the only place that she could find where you put the information about the session they attended was in the code section. Does that make sense? In that, when you put a session and it's got a code, she was putting it in there. But to me, if you are putting all that CPE information, there's a place in Cvent in the events where you have all that, you classify it as like specialized knowledge, you put in the title. How come you can't just create your certificate from all the other information you have in there instead of having to put it in just the code?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And you should definitely be able to put in that information into that certificate beyond just in the code. You'll just have to use something called a data tag. If you give me just a second here, I don't think we enabled certificates in that event that we created, but I'm just going to enable them in my event so that I can show you where to find all of those other data tags. That way you're able to add that information to your certificate without feeling like it has to be just in that code. So give me 30 seconds so I can enable this in my account.
So one other question came in regards to how do we go back and send the survey? So I think not necessarily how to get to everything, but where exactly in the survey do they launch it? So when you get through here, if we can answer that question. Awesome.
Okay. If you want to move on to that first, that's fine.
I'm in the badge right now, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. So let me share my screen. Okay, here we go. All right, so I'm in the certificate editor here. And so what she may have seen is areas to add in over here, just the QR code and other information. But if we go over to the data tags, you'll see here we can find a lot of other information when we're building out that certificate. If we scroll down to the bottom, let me just scroll down all the way to the bottom here. There we go. Down at the very bottom, if you are inputting the credit information, you can see here there's a credits area at the bottom where you can start pulling in that data about each registrant. And then if we scroll a little bit further up, you can also see there's an area where you can add in if you needed to, just like the sessions that they were specifically registered for. You've got some My Agenda data tags, but it could just be that you haven't perhaps switched over to the data tags tab when building out the component. So I would suggest we check that area.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. And then survey. So let me head back up. Now, I guess I do want to clarify as far as the survey that you want to send out. Has that been created at this point, or has it not been created in your event yet?
Not created.
Okay. So the first thing we'll want to do is just you'll open up your event, and if you want to use that post-event feedback survey that's already built into the event, you'll notice up at the top under website and registration, there's a specific area for feedback surveys. If that area is grayed out, just make sure to go back to the event configuration under event details and then event configuration to turn that on. But once that's on, you'll see under website registration, here's the area for feedback surveys. So I'll go ahead and click on that. And then you can either just create a basic survey. So you can see here, you can read the description between those two. The premium surveys just have a little bit more advanced logic and enhanced reporting, but we'll go with just basic for right now, just so that I can show you how you'll build it out and send it. But you'll pick your survey type, and once this loads, sorry, it's taking a minute here. Your 2 surveys have been created. So the 2 levels of surveys that you can send out within this event are going to be a general feedback survey, which is just for the overall event. And this is a survey that you can send out to everyone within that event who registered. The other level of survey that you can do is the session feedback survey. And those are going to be where you can build out questions that are specific to a specific session within your event. So if you built out a workshop or a keynote speaker within your event as a session, you can build out questions using that session feedback survey so that those questions specifically only go out to people who registered for that session. So let me just open the survey designer so you can see how you'll start designing the survey. So we say open survey designer. You'll see here, this actually looks a lot like the event website and that area that we covered during training as far as how you're going to build things out. So this is the first page that they would encounter when they click on that survey link. Typically what you'll do, and I'll show you how to actually send the survey after I show you how to create it, but you'll decide whether you want that survey to go to all of the registrants for your event, or if you're marking participation, you'll decide if it's only going to go to those people who actually showed up, right? Because there's not really always a point in sending it to everyone who registered. You don't want to collect feedback from someone who wasn't actually there in person. But once they click on that survey from that email, they'll open it up. Hey, thanks for attending. You can totally customize this area if you want to add more instructions. And then at here, they're going to see the available surveys based on what you configure. So if we head over to this menu dropdown, here is where you'll configure either the general event feedback survey or the session feedback survey. So if we just looked at like general event feedback, it does auto-populate these 3 answers that are just very general, like event feedback type of questions that you might ask someone. But you can remove those, delete them if you don't want any of those. But then over on the right-hand side is where you'll find those questions that you can add. So let's say we want to ask them, like, did you like the food? We could add in a choice question. I'll just type it out here. Did you enjoy the food? And then at the bottom, since I had a choice question, I'll need to make sure I add in their choices. So we'll keep it simple, yes or no. And so you'll just build out your survey utilizing these question widgets, as well as add in any page elements if there's any additional content that you want to add to that survey. But once you've designed it, just make sure that you publish it when it is that you are ready for sending that survey. So after we publish, I'll just publish it here. You'll see under your event emails, if we go to promotion and communication, and then event email, at the bottom of our emails here, there's post event email. So there's already an event email created for you in here by default. So if we look at that email and open it up and we say preview, you'll notice it contains just some basic information. If you click on design the email, you can edit this completely. But notice there's a link here. It says click here to respond. So that's that link that would take them to the survey that I just showed you how to build out. So that's how you would go in, make sure that that email is set to go out. But the other thing you'll want to make sure in this email is to set your audience. So notice right now my audience is set to attended registrants, which means it's only going to, when I go to manually send it, pull up the list of people who I've actually marked as having participated. But if we click edit here, notice that instead of having it send manually, which would mean I come in and send it out, I can also schedule the survey to go out at a specific date and time. So perhaps in the future, if you don't want to worry about having to come in and manually send out your survey before the event, you can always come in here and schedule that out. But since we're set to manually, I'll hit save here. If I was ready to send it out, I could just go to send and then manually, and that would pull up a list of my attendees. Now, I have not actually launched this event. It's not active. It hasn't happened, so there's no one pulling into this list. But in your particular event, since it already happened, as long as you were marking participation, you'll see a list of those people who attended the event as people you can send out that email to. So hopefully that helps a little bit. I'm going to post an article in the chat as well to direct you with more instructions on how to set up the feedback survey. So let me pull that up. And actually, you know what? I'll keep sharing my screen as I do this so you guys can remember. The Cvent community contains all of this information that we're posting in the chat. So you can see here, setting up the feedback survey in Flex. Right below that, there is an article that has instructions on if you ever wanted to send out a feedback survey before the event is over. So I've seen some people before the event is over maybe just ask like, what do you want to see at the event? Or what topics are you interested in learning about? So you do have the option to also send it prior to the event being over. There's this article with the instructions. So let me post, actually, I'll post both of those in the chat for you guys. And while I do that.
Yeah, I'll just say, I'll give you a chance to do that, Victoria. When we use the community, or I do, and I know Erica does a lot, because that it's a wealth of knowledge. Even when we started in Flex from going to Classic, it also tells you what is not the same and walks you through how you get there. And so, you know, and a lot of times less is more when you're putting in what you're looking for. So if you just typed in survey, you can get what you want. So that is one thing that I've noticed. If you populate too much information, then it won't come up with articles or with the, you know, how-to information. So that's just one tidbit that I have, is less is more. If you just use the main word, even if you just put Flex to Classic or Classic to Flex, you know, something like that, you're going to get a lot of information. So definitely use this community. It is how we trained when we started in Cvent, and even we're learning all kinds of things just because of the enhancements that Cvent has done in the last few quarters. So know that this is out there all the time, and you don't have to wait for anybody to call you back. I also use the chat with Cvent instead. Can you open that up, Victoria? Instead of sitting on the phone, I use my cases, and then I go to the chat, and then I don't have to like wait for somebody to call me back. If they can't answer my question in the chat, they say, is there an email that I can email you, you know, the information, and I give them my email address, or they come back and put it into my cases, and I have all that information in this section. So you just fill this out, and they'll either live chat with you if it's between those hours at the top, 9 p.m. through 9 p.m. Or not, I'm sorry, 9, is it available?
That does look like it's wrong on here.
Yeah, I was like, it's 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So you might want to take a snippet of that, Victoria. No, I'm just joking.
Yep.
It is 9 a.m. Eastern to 9 p.m. Eastern, just because I've used it numerous times. But I use this because it also sends you the dialogue of the chat if you want to keep that so you have it for future so you can reference it back. So on a phone call, you don't get the transcription, right, of the conversation, and you have to remember everything. And they will send it to you in email if you ask them to, but sometimes that doesn't happen. So I prefer using the Cvent chat in the community as well. So we don't have any other questions, but I know people would not get on here just to sit. So we're going to open it up. Everybody should have the ability to talk. So does anybody else have any questions for us?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Where's my chat?
Actually, we can hear you, Michelle, so you don't have to use the chat.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Victoria. I've been listening.
Hey.
My mom and I have been canning strawberry jam.
Oh, nice.
That's why I haven't been on here, and I've been hearing a lot of things going on. So, as you know, I do have a lot of questions. One of the things that we noticed is when we go into our event for event visibility, that region, that other regions are also in on our events. We can see their events, and we're wondering if that can be a change to not allow events in the queue that aren't our events.
Yes, that's in the visibility of an event. So Victoria, I'll let you show where that is in our account. If that happens, Michelle, you can email Erica as well. And her email is ethorpe, THORPE, @hvma.org. And she can help you with that. But it is in the visibility settings of your event. And you can control who has visibility. If it's somebody else's event showing up in yours,
Yes.
you know, like, then you just need to notify us, and we'll either work with that chapter, or we'll just change it on our end to make that happen.
Yeah, that's what's been happening for us.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I
we can
appreciate
take
that.
care of that for you. You can either email chapter@hvma.org or Erica at ethorpe, and it's THORPE @hvma.org.
Okay. And it sounds like I'm going to get all my questions answered here, so I may not have to have that meeting tomorrow. One of the things that we also noticed is in the custom fields, what is the reason for the cancellation? It says cancellation reason in the custom fields. Why is that there? What is that for?
Can you go into the custom fields?
Yeah, now is this the event custom field?
Yes.
Okay.
Where it says cancellation.
There we go. Here.
Yeah, what is that for? Do we need to utilize that for anything? Because
This is so we can track the reason why things are being canceled. So if it's COVID-19, if it's, you know, scheduling problems, speakers couldn't make it, you know, other reasons, it's just basically to track the reason of something being canceled.
Okay.
If we don't know why it's canceled, then we, you know, like we really didn't have a good mechanism to know what events were canceled for COVID. We can probably guess based on the dates, but it would have been easier to have something in place for that. This just gives us a better idea of the why. And Victoria, if you wanted to shut your ears, and Naya, it gives us a better opportunity to negotiate with Cvent. If there's something that is out of our control, then it gives us a little bit more power, Michelle, when we have to go back and talk to them about renegotiating or redoing things for future things.
perfect.
No problem.
Okay, then when entering fees and you decide that you don't need all of those fee drop downs, how do you delete those? You know, when you go in and you're setting up your event and you're setting up your fees for the folks that are attending, how do you get those, you know, to delete those if you don't need them?
Okay, so you're using one of the templates and it has fees already in it?
Yes.
Okay, so let me try and find then one of those templates so I can show you, since my event does not have fees. So let me load that up here.
Okay, I was going to say, if you want to go into Northeast Ohio, we have one set up in there, and we were going to
Perfect.
set up fees. If you want to look under, I think it's the innovation event that's coming up.
All right, looking for it right now.
Okay.
And you said it's something innovation?
Right. Innovation, healthcare innovation, I think it is.
I think I got it. So let me share here.
Okay.
Is this the one?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So you've got some fees under pricing here that you're not going to utilize.
Correct. See how all those are on there? How do we delete those?
And are you just not collecting fees at all for this event, or do you need to change the fees?
No, we're not, but because it's going to be virtual, but no, Victoria, let me back up. We're not positive yet if we are going to charge a fee, because the lady who is helping us, one of our volunteers who's helping us, has not got back to me as to whether or not one of the speakers is going to charge a fee. And we don't know if we're going to have somebody that's going to sponsor that for us or not. So right now, we just are trying to figure out how we would do this in the future in setting up another one.
Okay. So what you can do right now for this event is if I click on edit, so I'm in the fees, let me just get to where I was. If you click on edit, what you can do is if we click into each of these fees, so if you click that little pencil icon to the left of it,
yes,
you can just switch from active yes to no and do that for all of the fees that you see here. That way they're not currently associated for your event. Now, what I would recommend so that you don't have to do this in the future, if you know that you aren't going to have fees for the event, whenever it is that you duplicate an event or whenever it is that you use a template, make sure you check off the fees area under event configuration. So if I just go back to the event overview and pretend I'm going to create an event. So I'm just going to say it's using an existing event. Let's pretend I'm copying this current event that you're working on.
Okay.
So I'll select that event. And obviously, you'll update that information. I'm just going to skip this for right now since that part's not really important to what I need to show you. So now I'll go to the next area where I'll select the configuration. So what I would advise you to do here is notice how under each of these items it says keep the selected event fees. I would just uncheck that. That way it's not copying over all of those fees from the previous event. And you can just either add in your own fees, or if you don't plan to use fees at all for the event and you know that for sure, you can always just uncheck fees. Now we have to uncheck service fees and these other fees on here just to make sure that we can uncheck fees. I think it's invoicing and there's a few other fees, but notice how I just checked off those fees areas.
Yes.
And then that won't enable it for my event. But if you think you might be collecting fees, then what you could do is that first suggestion, which is just to uncheck where it says keep the selected event fees. Otherwise, it is going to just copy over those exact same fees. And then what you'll have to do, as you saw earlier within your existing event, is just deactivate them because it will not allow you to delete them at that point.
Okay. So again, I just want to make sure I get this right. So I'm in the event conference itself, configuration, and I want to uncheck keep the selected events fees if we're not going to include all of those.
Exactly.
Okay. Now in this same thought pattern, how do we go about, like when we set up our event and we go to, the little eyeball and we're looking at it, we're previewing it, and you go into registration, and all of a sudden, the only thing you've got listed in there are members and non-members when we have checked off student fees and, provider fees and all of that. And we go back into register and they're not there. What are we doing wrong that they're not carrying over to our registration page?
So is that currently happening in this event right now?
Yes, it is, I believe. Yes.
Okay, so you said when we go to preview the event.
Yes.
And then you go to register.
Correct. Yes. And it
and then
Yeah, to only show register or non-member and member. See, but where is it like we want to include student fees or provider fees, etc.
Okay.
How do we do? So I don't know how I'm doing that wrong.
Yeah, so no worries. You'll just need to make sure that it does get added to the drop down. So if I go back to your event, I do see under event details and registration types, I do see you've added in that member, full-time student in addition to those two.
Yes.
So this is adding them to the event. It's telling the system, hey, we're going to use these registration type labels. But then in addition to that, what you'll need to make sure if you're not seeing them automatically in that drop down is that you add them to the drop down. So to do that, you'll go to website and registration, and you'll actually do that within the registration process. So I'll open up the registration process. We'll open the site designer.
Okay, now wait a minute. Site designer. Okay. Okay.
And so now we're on this first page, and notice this is just the registration type widget.
Right.
So this is what you'll need to click on.
Okay.
And then if you've noticed right down at the bottom, it says limit available registration types, and it's only member and non-member. So you'll want to just make sure that when we go to select registration types,
okay,
these other get added to that drop down.
Okay, now if we've got more than that though, we've got member, non-member, then we've got provider, you know, if we've got something like that going on, do we have to add them someplace then? Is that in that first where I go to the event configuration part and add them there?
Exactly. So it's in the first, so it's under event details and then registration types. So we go here to registration types, and then we click on edit. Notice you can add, so you'll click on this button, and so then here you'll find your other options. Let's say it was an exhibitor that you needed to add in. You'll add it here first, and then if you don't see that in the drop down, you'll just need to make sure that it does get added in the drop down like I just showed you.
Okay, so I want to make sure too then that I click on that one that says registration type. I want to disable that. Am I correct on that? Going back into that.
Oh yeah. If you don't want it to just copy over what's from that previous event, and you just want to come in and add in your own registration type, you could do so. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. And we cannot create a template. Is that correct? Our chapter cannot create a template?
Tracy, that may be more of just a logistical question, so maybe I'll let you take that one.
So a template, you can use any event as a template. So if you want to copy an event over and over again, you have that capability. Okay. The library is set for specific templates based on branding, color schemes, you know, even down to like the, the pictures that are used and different things like that. So no, you're not allowed to use a template, but if you create an event, you can utilize it as a template. Does that make sense?
That does.
Okay.
Thank you.
I knew you were going to need help with that, Victoria, but I couldn't get my camera on quick enough. So.
No worries. Just want to make sure I'm giving the correct answers there and not giving them permission or taking away permission.
And I'm looking to see. I had some other, I don't know, is Brianna on here? Brianna Ashley on here by chance?
No, she is not.
Okay. I have another question. Is there a way to apply the refund policy for everything?
So the refund policy is going to be done just in an item by item basis, as you may have noticed. So you will need to make sure that, am I sharing my screen? I'm not, so let me share my screen again.
Okay.
You will need to make sure just that every item that has a fee associated to it does get its own refund policy. Now that refund policy can be the same. The system just, it's not that smart. It does need to know, okay, for this fee specifically, what do you want that refund policy to be? Because it could be that you're charging your different registration types different fees. So it wants to know what it needs to apply specifically for each of those fees.
So we do have to manually add those in every time. There's not a way to set it up, because it's going to be the same. Basically, you know, the $5 is what we're going to charge that person, because that's what the Cvent fee is for us to have them register on Cvent for the chapter. So we want to make sure that we get that $5 back, and then the rest, you know, we'll gladly refund. So that's how we were trying to see if we could do that across the board.
So what you could potentially do, Michelle, is once you create like that one event that you're probably going to copy over often,
Yes.
you could build it out with the policies in place to be, maybe it's going to be like charge $5 and
Yes.
refund the rest, or whatever it may be. Just build out that one event with that refund policy. And then all that's going to require you to do when you duplicate it is perhaps just make sure that you're updating the date on it, since that is going to be specific for each of your events.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so you could always just build out an event that has, you know, like, okay, member fee, non-member fee, student fee. You can even leave it at $0 for that one event if it's going to change in the future. And then you can just duplicate that one event over and over again and just make subtle changes. So that one event that you build out, you don't have to actually launch it. If you just want to leave it sort of like we mentioned, a template in your account, just build it out in the way that's going to help you in the future most to be able to just do things a little quicker. So if that means creating 4 fees that all have that refund policy set in place, you can then just duplicate that event over and over again so that you're not creating everything from scratch every time. Hopefully that makes sense.
That does. So on the question code, is this part of our reporting, Tracy?
No.
The question code when you build out a registration question? Or was there a different code? I'm sorry, I may have missed that part.
Let's see. Well, I'm seeing here how we did this. Well, I think it's just the question code in just the new Flex. We were just trying to determine if there was, if this was going to be used as part of our reporting for the association.
No, the only thing that's using for, I mean, we capture a lot of data, but the thing that is being captured in Cvent is engagement for, you know, if they attended an event, and the education quality at this time. So any questions that you guys answer or ask, you guys have that data available to you through the reporting. But from, I mean, we capture more data and put it in our data warehouse just for analytical purposes for the Regional Executive Council. But currently today, the Regional Executive Council is only, you know, the metrics that they've determined is the education quality and if they've attended, so engagement. Those are the things that we're looking at currently.
Okay.
Okay. And we have some other questions that have come in. So Michelle, if you have more, we'll come back to you. But I know that we've had quite a few come in the meantime. Do you, is that okay?
Absolutely, because that'll help me, you know.
Okay.
It may be things I've got listed yet too. So.
Okay. So Norma has asked us, do we have the ability to create and send certificates after events? So I know that Tammy had asked a question about certificates, but can they send the, you know, create and send the certificate after an event is complete?
That's a good question. And yeah, that's going to be a similar answer to the one about the survey. Ideally, you just want to make sure that all of this is being done prior to that archive date, which is in your event just set to automatically 90 days after that end date. So the archive date, I'll show you here. It's under event details and event information. It's right here. So it is just set to 90 days after that end date of the event by default. But if we click edit here, you can change that. But anyway, just the reason I bring that up is that you probably just want to make sure that you do it prior to that. But you can come in and send out those emails with those certificates after the event date, because typically we know that certificates are being sent after once you know who attended. So that is definitely something you can do.
Okay, Norma, if that didn't answer your question completely, let us know in the chat. One other thing, Victoria, can you go back to the custom fields? Naya was nice enough to change our cancellation reason to not required. So now when you're creating an event or when you're in an event, when you're trying to change anything, it will not require you to have that field answered. So I just wanted to mention that, just because when we saw that, it was like, oh, that shouldn't be required. So that has been changed since we began this call. So thank you, Naya, for your help. I don't see, can you review how to add a distribution list to the Flex event? We have existing contact groups that I want to duplicate for Flex events.
Okay, great question, Norma. So the only thing that I would ask for, not clarification on, but I guess clarification would just be, so there's the official term distribution list, which is going to be for when you're using e-marketing, and e-marketing is going to be for when you are sending out those campaign type of newsletters that are not necessarily relevant to a specific event. Now, if you're talking about the list for within a specific event, okay, it is for e-marketing. Perfect. So I'll go ahead and review that then. So let me share my screen. That helps clarify. So I'll go back up to solutions. And so the e-marketing module is up here, but you'll actually create that distribution list within the contacts area. So if we go to contacts, what we're going to do is go to contact groups, and then you'll create a contact group. So just for the sake of the system, there's two types of contact groups, and one of them is a distribution list. So that's why we're going to click this create contact group button to create that distribution list. So you'll notice once I say create contact group, it'll ask me for the type of contact group, and that's when I can switch it to distribution list. So once you choose the type and you name it, so I'm just going to call this Cvent test, and I won't actually save it here. But once you name it, choose the type, you'll then choose the security settings for it. So you'll want it to be public. What that just means is that people can request to be added to this distribution list. The reason, though, that this semi-private and private ones don't necessarily apply is that you guys don't use contact websites in your account. So what's going to happen here is just that whoever you add to the distribution list will be on the distribution list. This little security setting is not necessarily relevant to how you guys are utilizing the module. So then once we have that, you can add a short description, a long description if you want to just be able to know who this distribution list is applicable to, who is on it. And then you've got your distribution list visibility. So this is where you're going to determine who all can actually see this distribution list. For the most part, for this, you're probably going to just uncheck off everyone except for perhaps your own specific users in your chapter. But once you do that, you'll save that distribution list. And so let me open up a distribution list here. So let's say I created the Cvent training distribution list. Once you create that, you can add members to it through saying, search your address book. So if we go to search the address book, you can actually look through all of your contacts and then add those to your list. So let's see if you have any contacts here. Give me 1 second to find that right contact group. Okay, so let's say these are the two contacts that I want to add, but like I said, you can search through your different contact groups. So let's see whose account am I in, Northeast Ohio.
There we are.
Oh, I'm already on it. So there's your contact groups list. So then I could say, okay, I want both of these guys in this new distribution list. And then what I'll do is go to actions and I'll say update contact groups. And then we're going to add them to an existing group. And from here, we're going to find that distribution list. So something I find helpful is just scrolling down to the bottom because that's where my distribution lists are. So I'll just click on that distribution list that I had just created and I'll save. So then that's going to add those 2 members. Once I confirm, to that contact group. So now if I go to that distribution list or contact group, again, they're kind of referred to as the same thing here in the system. Let's find that Cvent training. If we look at that Cvent training distribution list and I click on view its members, I now see those 2 members that I added into that distribution list. Hopefully that helps. I can put an article in the chat as well with the instructions for that I just basically went over. So let me look for a good article for you guys there with that too. While I do that, Tracy, were there any other questions that we may have missed in the chat or the QA area?
I don't think so. Can we review? Yeah, nope, that is my last question. Brenda, I will ask if you have any questions, just to make sure that, and you do have the capability to talk. And Clint and Jessica, I've noticed you've joined as well. Let us know if we can help at all. And, you know, we have Victoria for another, what, 15 minutes? So just want to make sure that we're here. And like I mentioned, if you joined a little bit later, it definitely we'll definitely be putting these on at least once a month for a little bit. Michelle, it looks like you've dropped your audio. She says, well, she can't hear me. So Erica, can you populate that? She's dropped her audio. I'm not quite sure. She says she can't hear us, but oh, now she's back. So she should be able to hear us now.
Yes, I can.
Okay, awesome. I was like, I just said, Michelle, you've dropped your audio. And then I'm like, oh, she can't hear what I'm saying. Because, you know, that would, it's, you know, for being a Tuesday, it's been a really long week.
Thank you. I feel your pain.
Yeah. So any other questions out there? Like I said, we have Victoria for maybe 14 minutes now. Anything else that you guys want to see or talk about? Any questions for me? I'm also here for 15 more minutes.
Gloria, this is Norma Pierce. I would like to know, how do you reorder the reg types in a Flex event so that in that drop down, for example, an enterprise member would be the last one to see? It'd be like member, non-member, enterprise member.
That's a great question.
Good question. I can show you that. So let me log back into my account that has that Cvent training we were working in. I don't want to reorder anybody else's
oh, come on.
event here. So
Maria. Let's have some fun.
I know, right? You want me to do
fine.
It for you.
Yeah, no. That is a great question, because that designer can get a little bit overwhelming sometimes. But know that it's meant to make it easier, and it is easier once you kind of get your bearings around it. But that is a great question.
Give me a second. My thing is spinning, so I don't want to open that up before it stops spinning.
Oh, come on.
I know, right? It knows it's almost over. Okay. So let me just open up that site designer again. So you'll go to the site designer and it's just going to be in that registration type widget. So if you just find that widget here, so here's registration type, actually give me a second here. I'm about to lead you in the wrong direction. So sometimes I blank out on things too. So that just goes to show you guys that it is not necessarily, there we go. Okay, sorry. All right, so you will click on the registration type widget here. So in that widget, once you do click on it, over on the right-hand side, you'll see those additional options. So just scroll down to the bottom, and I know it's a little bit tricky to remember, as you saw, I blanked out on it. But if you go to select registration types here, here's where you can reorder them. So you'll just click on them and then redrag them to reorder how they're going to display in that drop down. So if I want member below non-member, I'll just reorder it through there. So just again, find that widget. At the bottom, you'll say select registration type, and then you can reorder by clicking and dragging here.
Is there anything in
That's a good question. It is a little bit hidden.
Yeah. Is there anything in the community that has that information on it?
That is a great question. Let me see if I can find an article, and if I cannot, I'll submit that as feedback for you all.
Yeah.
Because I do think that would be a really good article and helpful information. So let me just check on that.
Yeah, if you do have it, if you just send it to Erica, she can put it in the Cvent, tip of the week, and at least we have the resource. We appreciate that, Victoria. Any other questions before we conclude for today?
Just one question here, Tracy, if I may. I was, like I said, making jam here, but I know that they were talking about the feedback survey. How do we get to the feedback survey? How do we get to feedback survey in web links?
How do you, if you don't want to utilize the feedback survey email?
Right.
I can show you where to find the web link.
Okay.
I can do that. So just 1 second. I did find that article. I'm just pasting it really quickly here in the chat before I forget. So there is an article for reordering registration types. I just pasted it. Just make sure that you're looking at the Flex Events area. So it's that second paragraph. But let me go back here. And you want to access the web links for the feedback survey. So if you're just in your event, you're going to access that in the same area where you access your other web links. So you'll go to promotion and communication, and then over on the left-hand side, you'll see web links.
Okay.
And then if we scroll down to the bottom here, you'll see there's the, there's not the feedback survey. So give me a second here.
Okay. So that wasn't in there already? Is that why we were
That wasn't in there already, no. So I am leading you, again, in the wrong way. I think my brain just stopped working today, so.
We do this.
That's fine.
Yeah. And you know what? And we can talk through this tomorrow too, Michelle.
Yeah, that's fine.
If you just want to send that to us, Victoria. I know we use.
Okay, I'll send that to you guys.
I don't have Steve. I thought I had Cvent open and I was going to offer to share my screen, but I'm in Zoom. Zoom. I can't use the word. I'm in Zoom mode. We'll just use that word for today.
That's good.
Yeah.
No worries. I will follow up with you guys on that one.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem.
So we will be scheduling more time with Victoria and Naya, and we really appreciate their time. And like I said, it'll probably be at least 6 to 8 weeks out. But don't, if you have a question, seriously, the community is exceptional in their in the information that's out there. And you know, Erica and I are just a phone call away. Emails usually get lost in my inbox, but Erica's really good at getting hers out of her inbox, so she would be you know, the first choice I would pick. You can always carbon me on it. So if there's any questions that, you know, we can answer quickly. And also we have Victoria and Naya at our fingertips, and they are very responsive. So we appreciate, you know, if there's something we can't answer, we actually reach out to them. I just want to thank you so much, Victoria. This has been extremely helpful. And we will be posting the transcript from today's webinar. And so if there's anything that you need a little bit more information, and we'll also post these support Cvent links to the articles that Victoria has posted in the chat as well. So we appreciate everybody's time today, and we look forward to seeing some of you on Friday, and some of, or actually on Thursday, we have another live Q&A just in general about programs, communications, anything for an hour on Thursday. And then we have a live streaming live Q&A next Monday. So we look forward to seeing you guys then. All right. Take care. Take care, Victoria. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Bye, guys. Have a good week.
Thank you.